Hi everyone, this is Neel, Raithatha, consultant, audiologist and director of ClickWax. Thank you for joining me in my latest video using the WAXscope. And this is of a patient who attends around twice a year. And it wasn't necessarily a complex procedure, but the reason why I'm uploading this particular video is that it demonstrates how good the WAXscope is when you're working very close to the canal wall. So its magnification therefore provides you with really good precision. And so once I remove this large occluding plug, really dry crusted wax and skin, I've just put some oil in here to lubricate the surface so I can get a suction grip. I'm gonna go all the way around the perimeter, peel some dead skin and dry wax off the canal walls, and on the right side we do also remove a bit of dry crusted skin on the eardrum. So just it's a good video to illustrate how closely you can work not only against the eardrum but also the canal walls with the WAXscope once you've obviously been trained to use it for wax removal. So just now going to go around the perimeter. So the eardrum is visible in the distance, and I'm just probably using a 16 gauge suction tip, which is a bit of a smaller suction tip than the norm, but it's larger than the fine end. When I first started doing wax removal, how many years ago? Probably 2014, there or thereabouts. I was only led to believe, and I'm guessing it's the norm in the UK, we use a standard 14 gauge suction tip, which has got a diameter around 2 millimeters. And then if we want to reduce suction power, say either when we're working closer to the eardrum or closer to the canal walls, or to reduce suction noise, we use a fine end and we attach this to the end of the suction tip, so it makes it longer. It's like an extension. So a fine end 18 gauge is around 1.28 millimeters, there or thereabouts. But now that I've developed my own suction tips, it's a bit different, our suction tips in the UK. Around the world, actually, it's more or less the norm. We have a handle, and then we can attach and detach different size suction tips. Whereas in the UK, the suction probe itself is pre-bonded to the handle, so you can't remove it. And then if you want to add the fine end, it's like a little extension, you push it through the tip and it kind of locks into place, but it makes it longer. And you're kind of restricted in those two suction tip sizes only. Now, sometimes an 18 gauge is not powerful enough. Ironically, with the Birmingham gauge system, which is the one that we normally use, you can get a French gauge system as well. The higher the number, the smaller the suction tip. So around the world, you get a handle, and you get these attachable and detachable suction tips. So you can during the course of a procedure swap them, but it doesn't increase the length of the suction tip. And we've got full size range now, so we do 11 gauge, which is a 3 millimeter, which I actually haven't used. I might possibly use a 2.5 millimeter, which is a 13 gauge, but I'm kind of comfortable with the 14 gauge. If I feel that it hasn't got the suction power, I'll probably revert to a manual instrument. So yeah, but we've got the 3 millimeter down to a 1.05 millimeter, which is a 19 gauge. So so here I'm probably using a 16 gauge or a 17 gauge by the looks of it, actually. So with the 17 and 18 gauge, it's slightly more powerful than an 18 gauge, and it doesn't get blocked as well because the diameter is a bit bigger. Now, this piece of crusted skin was really adhered to the ear canal, so I just put a bit of oil just to loosen it. You can see it really softened it, and I literally applied the oil and went straight back in, and that was enough. It's just the contact with the oil on the skin just loosens it almost instantaneously there. And there's a bit on the anterior canal wall, and it's just a bit of dry skin again to the left. This is about a centimetre into the ear canal, so where the cartilage meets the bony part of the ear canal. See, they've got really dry skin. I'm just going to go up and down, just peel that skin away. I might remove a little bit at the roof. But in a moment you get a good view of the patient's eardrum. So something unrelated to this video, but something I've noticed in the last probably a month or two, there's a massive increase of patients attending clinic with impacted earwax due to cotton bud use, Q-tip, and also a higher number of Q-tips getting stuck in the ear, so the cotton wool detaches from the Q-tip. I mean, we do see our fair share, but I've just noticed an anecdotal increase in numbers recently. So, and this is not just compared to last year, it's probably since I've started performing wax removal. So it seems as there's a lot more people out there who are not able to get access to earwax removal services via their primary care, so their GP on the NHS, and therefore, I mean, that's probably been like that for a while. In fact, there's probably more GPs now offering NHS earwax removal services. So they typically use irrigation, and they have been since COVID. So although the majority, I believe, don't, it's a bit of a postcode lottery, but some are, even where I'm based in Leicester. But yeah, I think overall, obviously, there's less access to NHS ear care, which I think there should be a provision. Obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of irrigation, but there still should be some form of ear care, because otherwise patients who are not able to go privately are left without, and they then resort to excessively using drops, or trying to remove the wax, take matters into their own hands, basically. Yeah, so whilst you're watching this, I'll just explain something else that happened recently. I had a local GP. She brought her daughter in for earwax removal, but she was using sodium bicarbonate drops for about 10 to 14 days, which is really excessive. And what sodium bicarbonate drops does is water-based. So it increases the alkalinity of the ear, which gives rise to more of an opportunity for harmful bacteria to colonize the ear and cause an infection. And I went to the pharmacist who wouldn't treat the patient at their age. I'm not sure why GP would take their daughter or son to a pharmacist, because they should be aware of, like, it's a specialized area. But of course, a lot of pharmacists are doing pharmacy first schemes now. I know some pharmacists who have undertaken very high level training, and they're prescribing pharmacists, but I know also some prescribing pharmacists who are allowed to prescribe for the year, and we previously would allow them to come to the course, but I stopped because it was worrying the difference in, there wasn't appearing to be some standardized training. So one of the pharmacists said that, admittedly, that they are allowed to prescribe for the year, but they don't really know much about the ear. So I just found that a bit bamboozling. In any case, so they came here, and I said straight away, like, I'm a bit worried, it's excessive drops, skin was macerated. And I mentioned using some, now the ear wasn't infected, but it was just so damp and wet. And ironically, it was the remaining wax, which is probably preventing that ear from getting infected, because the wax itself was mildly acidic. And we removed the wax within it wasn't a long procedure, it just came out in a plug. And then the patient developed an infection afterwards. And so using drops inappropriately beyond the manufacturer's recommended usage can lead to problems. More so with water-based drops as opposed to olive oil. But yeah, so just be careful. Don't overuse, especially water-based drops. Don't overuse any drops. Just follow the manufacturer's instructions, because it can then lead to issues. And it's when we removed that wax, there was no more acidity in the ear, kind of counterbalancing the pH. And then they developed an infection a few days later. So bit of dry skin on the eardrum. Just gonna kind of flick that off the eardrum, suction it up. I think I'm probably using the 18 gauge there. There we are. Well, no, I think there's a little bit left, a bit of dead skin here. Similar to the right side. And I'm seeing, yeah, I'm seeing a lot more patients also just excessively using drops. So that's why I gave that example of that the patient's child where they just excessively use drops. And so drops are just softening agents. Once you've got a substantial amount of wax, the drops might give you temporary relief because it might just break down the wax a little bit, allow a bit of air to go and sound to go through, but it will accumulate. It's not removing it. Nothing dissolves wax, so just be careful, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care, bye.